Who is this actually good for, who should skip it, and is it worth the price for normal everyday buyers? Those are the 3 questions that make me pause every time I see a new mill drill on the market. If you're wondering whether a 15-inch jet mill drill with a 1 HP motor and that solid cast iron column lives up to the hype, keep listening. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about why a lot of hobbyists and light shop owners hesitate before pulling the trigger on a machine like this. The core dilemma is simple. You need enough rigidity to hold tight tolerances when you're milling metal or drilling deep holes, but you also don't want to spend a small fortune on a benchtop unit that ends up gathering dust because it's too big for your garage or too small for your ambitions. The Jet 15-inch mill drill, model JMD15, sits right in that middle ground, and it's worth dissecting where that middle ground is useful and where it falls short. If you're a weekend woodworker who occasionally drills a few holes in a countertop, you'll probably find this machine overkill. The 1 HP motor and 115/230V capability suggest you could run it on either single-phase household power or a workshop-grade outlet, which is great if you already have the wiring. But for occasional DIY projects, the extra horsepower translates into a higher price tag that you might not recoup in productivity gains. On the other hand, if you run a small metal fabrication shop, a prototype shop, or you're a serious hobbyist who needs to mill aluminum or steel with consistent surface finish, the extra rigidity that comes from the one-piece cast iron column can make a noticeable difference in the quality of your work. That column is not a simple tube you bolt onto a base, it's a solid piece that reduces vibration when you plunge into the material, meaning you get tighter holes and less chatter without having to spend extra time on deburring. Now, let's walk through a typical day in the life of someone who actually puts this machine to use. Imagine you've set up a modest 810-foot shop bench, and you're about to start a batch of 1-inch holes in a piece of 6061 aluminum. You plug the jet mill into a standard 120V outlet, swing the power switch, and the motor hums up with a smooth startup, no sudden jerks that could throw the workpiece off center. The table slides out, and you lock the workpiece with the built-in clamps. Because the column is a single casting, the whole unit feels like it's anchored to the floor. There's a subtle sense of confidence that you won't see with lighter, tubular column machines. You lower the spindle, set the feed rate, and the drill cuts cleanly, producing a round, burr-free hole on the first pass. That's the kind of practical strength that matters, consistency when you're producing multiple identical parts. That same consistency, however, comes with a trade-off that a few people often overlook. The one-piece cast iron column means the machine is heavier, around 75 kilograms, 165 pounds, depending on the exact model. If you ever need to move it for a job site or even rearrange your workshop, you'll need at least 2 people or a sturdy dolly. It's not a piece of equipment you can casually roll into a closet. For a home workshop with limited floor space, that weight also affects where you can place the machine. You'll need a solid, level floor that can support the mass without flexing. Another practical consideration is the spindle speed range. The Jet JMD15 offers a variable speed that covers most woodworking and light metalworking needs, but it doesn't reach the high RPMs you'd expect from a dedicated wood-only router. If you plan to do high-speed sanding or very fine wood cuts, you'll find the top end of the speed range a bit limiting. That isn't a flaw per se, just a reminder that the tool is geared more toward drilling and milling than high-speed finishing. So if your primary workflow is turning and sanding a lot of pine or MDF, you might be better off investing in a dedicated router or a smaller drill press. Let's talk about the interface and user experience. The controls are straightforward: a thumb wheel for speed, a foot pedal for spindle start-stop, and a clear, analog tachometer. Nothing fancy, but the simplicity means you spend less time learning a new GUI and more time actually machining. The foot pedal feels solid and gives you the ability to start and stop the spindle without taking your hands off the workpiece, a small ergonomic win for anyone who spends long hours at the bench. The table travel is respectable for a 15-inch machine. You get enough clearance to handle medium-sized workpieces without needing a separate extension table. What about durability? The real-world evidence I could gather points to the column being a standout feature: no welds, no bolts that can loosen over time. That said, the rest of the frame uses typical stamped steel, which is fine for the anticipated loads but can dent if you bump.